Now, one of the issues that I have seen as a carer, as a thing to consider, to talk about, is what each one of you have touched a little bit, as we were talking, in terms of the person, the care, the life of the carer herself or himself, wherever whatever the case is. Now, and one of that major issue is that of identity, the issue of identity. As a mom, generally, I know lots of things. When you have a child, you have a baby, a lot of things change. But generally, as a mom, you will still be able to juggle much more and still be able to define and sectionalize your different areas about you. There won't be too what I've realized in my personal life and in that of, I've seen a couple of carers as well now, is that it's usually a difficult thing to separate or take yourself away from that caring duty, from that caring role on a day-to-day basis. And at the end of the day, we find it difficult to define ourselves. I want to talk to me about that, and I'll start with Tessa this time around. What were your thoughts, or what are your thoughts? What did you struggle with anything in that area, as an in the area of identity? Who am I? Was that anything, any issue for you, thinking of that as a carer and thinking of how it was for you before, or what you have not been able to do, at the moment? Can you tell me a little bit about that, starting from Tessa, issue of identity?
I sometimes feel like I'm living a parallel life.
Okay. Can you explain what that means to us?
Well, so my life as a carer is so different to many other people's lives. And sometimes feel like I'm on the outside looking in at other people's lives as well.
Mm, 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 mm. And what were your feelings? What feelings come with that when you feel like, you're like you said, to use your words now, you said, yeah, on the outside looking at other people's life, kind of. So what feelings come with that for you, and how have you dealt with it?
I haven't really thought about that, how I dealt with it. I have tried to maintain my own identity,
right,
as well.
Yes. As Tessa.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Dee, can you tell me what has the experience be for you in terms of that identity, of yourself as a carer, or yourself as what you thought, or what you had in mind as a person before you became a carer?
It's difficult to say, really. It's not so much a loss of identity. I think you find that you can't do, like Tessa was saying, with what you've got with one children, I think, Grace, what you do with one child that hasn't got a disability is one thing. When you have somebody with a disability, you lose spontaneity. Everything is planned. So you can't, from that point of view, you can't be, because you're always thinking of what you've got to do, where you've got to go. I don't think I ever felt I'd lost my identity, but I think that was helped what I was doing, work in the schools, because that fitted in with caring, because I could do that when it was school time. I think that helped me a great deal. So, yeah, I don't think I felt a loss of identity, except I think to a degree we're all like that, because, as you say, the minute we become a mum, you are so-and-so's mother, and that's regardless of disability, isn't it? People do look at you as somebody's mother. I don't think you get away from that, but it didn't really affect me in that way terribly, no.
Okay. How about Grace? Can you tell us your experience in that regard? You need to unmute yourself and say.
When I became a carer, there was a bit of loss of identity. I will say that. For me, there was because of the fact that the shock, especially my son wasn't born with disability. It was after 7.5, when he was 7.5 years. I felt a kind of shock. I felt a kind of don't know where to go. Although some of my finding meaning or identity, or the identity, is still there, hidden. But then there was a bit of confused emotion. For me, there was a bit of confused emotion. And it took me a long time to figure out so many things. So I will say for me, I felt a loss of identity, not totally, you understand, but hidden because of the circumstances of what I was going through that affected me in a way. I was not really depressed to an extent that I don't know what is happening, but I felt depressed. I felt stressed. I would say stressed. And I felt where I've come from, I felt a kind of shame because I realized I've internalized disability. I'm a Nigerian by birth. And I realized that actually changed the way I see things, that internalization, see the way I see things. And some of my character before I became a carer, that's of resilience, that came handy, you understand? Okay. That came handy, that resilience came handy. That attitude of what next came handy. Okay. So that's why when I felt a sense of loss, I was not able to stay in a faith for a very, very long time. You understand the process of shock, the process of denial, the process of bargaining, the process of before I got to acceptance. So, and I need to forgo some of who I was prior to that character, when I became a carer, you understand? Yeah. And obviously family dynamics were affected, you understand? My husband is a Nigerian, and obviously he was confused, and Nigerian men, they couldn't at that time, couldn't handle when you have a child with disability. Where we come from, there was still a lot of stigma, there was still a lot of needs. There was, as a Christian, even the Christendom, people think, your sins must have contributed. Maybe you've not prayed enough. You understand? So
I'll come back to all that.
Yes, no, obviously, I'm just telling you.
Yes.
A kind of what actually contributed to the fact that I lost a bit of who I was. Yes, I lost a bit, not totally, but yes. It's something characterized by a lot of inner turmoil and environmental factors.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so in that regard, because one of the things that I also know, as for us as carers, is that, especially if I will ask you, Dee, that that 35 years ago, I mean, at the moment, we're saying so many things in terms of, oh, this is not enough. We need to look at this again. The stigma, the stereotypes, the way the society views, the societal views, and all those things. Now, these are issues that are still pertinent at this time. And this is the period that we say, we have lots more information, we have lots more exposure, there are lots more development in different areas, So how was it 35 years ago? I'm really keen to hear how that was.
Yeah, in some ways, I don't think it was any different. I think we've come a long way from then, but it wasn't dreadful, if I put it that way, because I think prior to perhaps when I had my boys, there was a lot more stigma. A lot more children were institutionalized. They weren't in the community. So that had started 35 years ago, but obviously that has got better now. The other thing I was going to say, going back on what Grace was saying,
yes,
it didn't actually happen to me, but there were a lot of people that actually said when they had their child with disabilities, they actually felt bereavement. They felt as if they'd lost the child that they were hoping for. I didn't experience that, but I don't know whether others have.
okay. Okay. Now, if you, I mean, what exactly do you mean you didn't experience that? Because you said, I mean, Matt is a twin.
Yes.
How about his twin brother? Did you know before they were going to be born that one is going to be having a disability and the other will not?
They were, the thing was, they were 10 weeks prem as well. So 35 years ago, for both of them to have survived,
yes,
was incredible anyway, but they did. I think because there were the two of them, that made it a bit different. And because of the development of both of them at the same time, we weren't actually told that Matthew had a disability until he was a year old, although in our own minds, we knew that he wasn't the same as his brother because he wasn't developing the same as his brother. But I didn't get that feeling somehow. I never felt that he should have been different.
I see.
Don't get me wrong. I'd love to wave a magic wand and say, yes, he's not going to be disabled and he can be like his brother, but it didn't make me feel, and I used to get quite upset when I'd hear other mothers say that they found it difficult to come to terms with having a child with disabilities and having to do the caring because it wasn't what they expected.
Well, I think that's the beauty. Well, when I say beauty of it, it's the uniqueness of each person's path and each person's experience and journeys, because, you know, and I think, of course, there are so many other influential factors that might be impacting on that. You know, Grace mentioned about society, mentioned about faith, and all the things around the family stigmatizing and all those things. So maybe all those things in one way or the other actually also contributes to what one's experience would be as, you know, a woman, a mother going as a carer, or as someone, a mother having a child that is different. Okay, yes. So, you know, and it's just unique in your own, you know, experience that you didn't feel that sense of, you know, loss or bereavement or anything in terms of, oh, this was the kind of child I was expecting I was going to have, and this is the child I now have. Tessa, did you struggle with that at all, or you knew about Richard's state before he was born?
Well, I sort of I'd say if from about 6 months old, from about 6 months old. Okay. Rich was actually born on 36 and a half weeks.
Right.
But he still had the 5 month check as the development check, as no he'd been born on time, and that like really annoyed me. Yeah. Because he didn't meet certain milestones at 5 months, and then he didn't meet certain milestones at 7 months either. But I was rather his development check being delayed till he was, say, 6 months, because he was technically born 3.5 weeks early. Richard's older brother has Asperger's, so I already sort of knew that, and he's and sort of view that Richard was different because of what I'd already been through with James. But so I sort of spotted the signs that he was autistic, and and he had the when Richard didn't meet his milestones, he was referred to a pediatrician who then said, who just happened to be the same pediatrician that James had when he was younger, and he was referred to a local opportunity group who didn't have any spaces, but didn't have any space at the time. But they sort of referred me to a different one which is also close by. So sort of already had a rough idea with Richard, but because Richard has very good eye contact, I had various pediatricians telling me, "Oh no, he's not autistic," but he already had an older brother who was autistic, so I knew that he was. But I think it probably took about 3.5 before he saw a local pediatrician, who then spotted within about 5 minutes that he was autistic. He didn't need to have any further assessments, and so. But I'd say my journey with Richard has been sort of very different to different to what it has been with me, because Richard is quite severe autistic, and I had to do a lot of caring for him, even though he's nearly 16. Whereas with his brother, I basically stopped supporting him once he left secondary school, because he's much more high functioning, and on the autistic spectrum than what Richard is. So
now, now in the area of the what it was years back and now, Dee, you were mentioning that it's not so much difference in terms of some of the things that we see around. Grace, what would you say if you're, sorry, Tessa, what would you say in terms of what it was back then? Yes, you didn't have too long to go. I mean, that was 16 years back, but comparing to now, how would you see the terrain when it comes to having a child with disability? What was your own experience? Yes.
You do see a lot more people with disabilities out in the community, but some of the special schools aren't always in the community. Richard is quite lucky at the moment because he goes to the local special school.
Right.
But a lot of the special schools aren't local. So his current special school is has recently merged with 2 other schools, and a super school is being built in the middle of nowhere.
Oh wow! Okay.
Which, exactly. Which a lot of parents up in arms about, because it isn't actually that far. The sub school won't actually be that far away in terms of distance, but it's just sort of difficult to get to because it's in an isolated part of the countryside. And I think you find that with a lot of like residential schools as well. They're also in the middle of nowhere. So you do see more there appears to be a bit of a I can't put it, bit of a mismatch. You see a lot of people, especially out in the community.
Yes.
But you also have this educational model where not all special schools are local, and to actually get the support for your child, they end up having to go to somewhere that's quite isolated.